kind of put herself head and shoulders above. But everybody starts over at 0 tonight. You start over from the beginning, and everybody's got to do their dives again and really execute and hit that level where they're in the good to very good category. 7s or above is what you're looking for.
Some international flavor in this final 8, isn't there?
Absolutely. We've got 2 Canadians, as well as actually a girl from Croatia. In Croatia, the woman from Croatia, actually, she competed for Croatia and Brazil at the Rio Olympics.
That's Marcella Maric of University of Miami.
Our 2 Canadians are from Clemson, Daniel Rietzma, and also Molly Carlson from Florida State University.
We're going through those warm-up dives right now.
Absolutely.
This is the 1 meter championship.
Absolutely. So you got everybody's going to kind of do very similar dives. You got a few that will stand out there, and we'll talk about those as they come up. But most of the degree of difficulty is all very similar. So really what it's going to come down to is that execution and the little details. So the judges are really looking for that overall impression. They're looking at the technique and grace of the dives from the starting position to the takeoff to the flight through the air, as well as the the entry into the water, and that's really what we look at. So they're trying to see all of those components in a very short period of time and throw them back up there.
Do you have a different strategy when you get to this point into the championship than you did to qualify?
I think the hard part is the flow. When you're talking about 48 divers or 46 divers in the prelim, that's a 23 minutes a dive maybe. You get down to the finals and it's 8, and you're talking about once every 4 or 5 minutes. So it's a different experience. But really, you're trying to do your dives to the best of your ability and execute and go in vertical. And that's sometimes tough under that stressful situation. So there's your teammates all around, and you're trying to do it for your team and pull through as well. So it should be fun.
Again, we'll have 6 dives from each diver.
Seeing a couple of different strategies on the hurdle there too, and you see a lot of the female divers and the women divers, doing that hop hurdle where they're getting a little more explosion and height off the diving board to allow them to do those harder dives as well as do the dives well and give them really that line-up position and entry into the water. So
where are the judges, Jason? How does that work?
So the judges are set up profile to the diving board. There's actually 7 of them total, 3 on one side and 4 on the other, including a referee. And you'll hear a whistle when they go to tell them it's time that they actually announce their dive and tell them what to do. They throw out the 2 highest and the 2 lowest, and you just keep the 3 in the middle, and you multiply that times the degree of difficulty to end up with your score.
And they are signaling now that we're ready to begin.
And see our referee getting us ready to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are set for the women's
University of Virginia's Kylie Tobin finished 8th. She got the final spot.
Yeah, the good news is that in the top 8, they all start over with 0, so you got a chance to move up here. That's a nice every 1.5 from Kylie. She's a little bit back from the diving board and a little washed over on the finish, but again, it's a very good dive. Went up.
Tobin, a sophomore from New Canaan, Connecticut. Here it is again.
You see she's hitting that 54-point range. That's really good for her. A nice start.
She was the first freshman to qualify for the NCAAs for Virginia. Now here's our Croatian diver from University of Miami, Marcella Maric.
Marcella's doing a 403B and Immer 1.5 pike as well, so you get a good chance to compare. Again, I think that one's just a little bit better. It's a little higher, nice clean entry. The last thing you see is those feet just a little flat, but very nice.
There's a sophomore from Zadar, Croatia.
You see some, one score up there in the very good range for her. It's nice.
Coming up next will be Alyssa Dawson.
And again, you have Alyssa doing a 403B, that Immer 1.5 pike again, same dive. Nice way to compare.
Now, what are you looking for here, Jason, with the same dive?
You know, from that one, I'm looking for the balance on the diving board and really the direction and having her go up off the diving board and get that nice clean entry going into the water. She had a great jump, just a little washed over, and so it brings those scores down a little bit because it's taken away from the entry.
So the junior from Durham, North Carolina, now moving on quickly, Molly Carlson from Florida State.
Again, Molly's doing the same dive, that 403B, number 1.5 pike. Again, you see a lot of divers start with this dive because it's one that they're comfortable with. She just got a little arch in her back going in the finish, but again, very nice start and good direction and good jump off the diving board.
55.2 is the score for Carlson. Merritt just still with the lead at the moment. She has a 57.60. Right smuck into the water.
Yep. And you see Danielle here do a front 2.5 pike there. And again, first time we're starting with a hurdle. Sometimes that's a little more dangerous, a little more tricky. You got to control your emotions there. See her get a little wobble through the finish there. Not quite as good, but still a pretty solid dive.
50.70 is her score, moves her up into 4th place of the 5 that we've had so far.
That one had a little higher degree of difficulty as well.
It's Blair Molka from Florida State.
Very solid on the entry and nice and vertical. You know, again, good powerful hurdle. She was in good balance, but really vertical on the entry, and that helps that impression going in.
Her score coming up right now at 52.80, and that moves her into 4th place.
So what you'll see is a lot of positioning and shuffling around as we get through because of the difference in the degree of difficulty as well.
Florida State's Ayla Bonowell. Merritt still in the lead. 2 more divers to go in this first round.
Ayla did a really good number 1.5 pike there. Not quite as high as some of the other ladies in the contest, so it's a little lower, but it finishes well. So maybe a little lower on the scores too.
We're about to find out. Her scores being released right now. A lot of 7s. 50.40. So she and Dawson tied for 6th at the moment. 1 more diver to go. This was 1st place after the preliminaries. Wallace Leyland.
Well, Wally did a nice hurdle. She was in great position and a beautiful pike there. Just ended up coming out a little early and leaving it short at the end. But you see a little bit of inconsistency there because they were trying to reward her for all the things she did really well, and then a little bit short on the finish.
Yeah, that actually puts her in 8th place after the first round. Marcella Merritt, the University of Miami, is in 1st. Here's Kylie Tobin's 2nd dive.
Kylie did a really nice job with that. You see in the hurdle there, she steps backwards and doesn't land quite on the end of the springboard. So it's really going up for her well from there and trying to get it to vertical, but she did a nice job to finish it out. But you'll see some inconsistency in the scores because a little different position there.
Tobin was in 3rd place after the first round.
Well, again, anything can happen here. That's the nice part about it.
It speaks to your point earlier, how our 1st place winner or 1st place person coming in is in 8th after the first round.
Right.
Here's Merritt, who led after round 1. Did you like that one?
I really did like the start on the dive. It looks like we got a little jitters there. She just left it short on the finish and not quite very confident on your entry. So
where do you typically see jitters?
You know, it's usually when you start in that first hurdle and that first takeoff going forward, and you kind of see people but not want to make a mistake, and so they end up making a mistake.
Merritt slips to 2nd place after that 2nd dive. Here's the Tar Heels' Alyssa Dawson.
see Alyssa does a really good job here being powerful. I think she had a little trouble there. She got lost a little bit, it looked like, in the twisting action there instead of getting that good square. And sometimes that happens. You know, just get your head in the right spot and not sure what to do with it. So
where does she lose it here?
You know, it's right in the takeoff here. I see her get her head down a little bit in the twist and kind of just a little too aggressive maybe on the start. And I guess she over twisted a little too far in the judge's opinion. They actually called that an incorrect dive, unfortunately.
What does that mean, an incorrect dive?
That means she ends up with 0 points on that dive. So, you know, she got a hole to dig out of.
This is Carlson.
That was a very nice entry at the end there from Miss Carlson. She was a little back on her hurdle on the end of the diving board, but did a great job to see the water and line it up nice and vertical. Again, almost up there at 58 points.
Yeah, 58.50 puts her in first place at the moment as we're hit the halfway point here in the second round. 4 more divers to go. It's Danielle Reitzma.
Yeah, we'll see Danielle do a 203B here, a back 1.5 pike.
What'd you think of that?
You know, I really like the way she stopped the dive. It was an aggressive, powerful start, which is awesome. And then she stopped it nice at vertical, lost her feet just a tiny bit, which is why you'll see some of those 7s and maybe not 8, 8.5, but really aggressive and nice and tight going in.
Yeah, the score's all over the place. Total score 52.80 on that dive. Moves her into second. Malka.
Blair did a very nice front 2.5 pike there. She was great balance on the end of the diving board. Went up really high, just a little archy on the finish. Just be a little firmer. That was fantastic.
Malka with a 57.20, and that moves her up into second place with 2 divers left in this second round. This is Ayla Bonowell.
Is also doing a front 2.5 pike here. And again, just that little of those nerves, I think, maybe didn't quite land on the end of the diving board and a little cut off, so it didn't go up very high, just short on the finish. So again, you can see some shuffling around.
Bonowell had a 50.40, and that scored a 36.40. So she'll be disappointed with that, but again, there's 6 rounds of diving. This is just the second round.
Absolutely. You keep fighting. That's the hard part.
It's Wallace Leyland, who was disappointed after her first dive.
Wow. That's a great job of coming back when, you know, and having a dive you're not too happy about, but doing a very, very nice reverse 1.5 pike there, and nice and vertical and really clean.
She had a 45.50 on her first dive. That's a 55.20, a full 10 points higher for Wallace Leyland, and that ends the second round. Leyland moves from last place to 6th place.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see, you're going to see lots of twists and turns here throughout the contest.
So we've had 2 rounds completed. Now we're into the third round. Kylie Tobin. Tobin in 4th, heading into this third round.
Kylie's doing a 51-34D. It's a front 1.5 with 2 twists. So you got a lot of things going on there. You got to make sure you get the right balance in your hurdle first and get it moving and up over the springboard first. And then you didn't quite get her hands all the way together on the end. So kind of ends up in that bottom end of the satisfactory category.
Has only a 37.70. And again, Jason, what are you looking? What's a good score? Where do we want that total score to be?
You know, we're looking for those scores to be 50 or above. You know, anywhere that's over 55, that's excellent. You're doing a great job there. If you're over 50 and consistently, that's the hard part, is doing it for 6 rounds in a row.
There's Marich. And this is round 3 of 6.
That was a very nice dive. You got good sound going in the water too. You could hear the pop with her hands. But it's all starting with a good start, getting it up in the air nice and high. Great position in the deep pike, and then really lining it up.
6.5, 7.5, 8.5.
Her score's coming in. Her highest score is an 8.5, but her total score 58.50. So that's a good score for Marriage.
That's really good.
Vaults her back up into first place, but again, she's only the second diver of this round. It's the ACC's Diver of the Year last year, Dawson from North Carolina.
That's a nice response after having a dive that didn't go the way you wanted it to coming back and really doing a nice back 1.5 there. Really solid in vertical, great position.
She scores a 52.90 on that dive.
With a little lower degree of difficulty, that 52 points, 52.9, that's a good score on that.
So we're in the halfway point here in round number 3.
And again, you're going to see another back 1.5, the same dive that Alyssa just did from Molly. So not quite as well executed there. She got a little bit of lean on the springboard, so it's harder to stop because of that extra motion you have in the beginning.
See what Carlson's score is.
Judge Moore, please.
Molly's one of our actually 3 Florida State divers in this final.
44.85 is the score.
And that's not going to hurt you too bad, but it's a little below that mark we're looking for.
Florida State does have the most divers in this final, and Miami also with a couple.
Yep.
There's Clemson's Danielle Wrightsman, the only Clemson Tiger in the final.
That was a good start from Danielle. I thought she just didn't quite look back enough on her entry there, so it washes a little bit over on the finish. It was really good start, an aggressive start and hurdle. But again, you got to use your visual cues and pick that up so that you can get out maybe just a little earlier and stop that at vertical.
Yeah, that score was a 44.4. Wrightsman is in third place right now. 3 more divers to go in this round. Mocha, Bonewell, and Leyland.
My guess is this is going to be a close contest for sure. And again, you get another back 1.5 there. A little bit of pull on the beginning and just going over on your finish there. Just got to make it go nice and vertical, Miss Blair.
So Mocha waiting on that score. That's a 41.40 for Mocha. And she's at 151.40, which is third place right now. 2 more divers to go here in round 3.
And again, you've got Aylin, the third of the Florida State divers here, doing a back 1.5 pike again. That was not quite as high and aggressive on the jump and the takeoff, but the flight through the air and the lineup and the entry were very good. So that overall impression is going to be in that good to almost very good range.
Good scores coming in. 54.05 for Bonewell.
And here you go again. We're going to get another look at another back 1.5 pike from Wallace Leyland from Miami, second of the Miami divers. Yeah, that was a really good start off the diving board. Just a little bit over again, so we're going to get out and stop it just a little bit better, but better jump. So, depends on what each judge is looking for, and there is some individual opinion in there too.
48.30 for Leyland. And Leyland is now inched up into 4th place, so she keeps improving her position as we finish 3 rounds.
You're kind of halfway through, and you got 5 of the divers that are right at about that 150 mark, which is 50 points a dive. So that's not a bad deal.
Here's Tobin. Tobin right now is in 6th place through 3 rounds.
Again, really aggressive off the diving board. just got to get out and look back and make that body stop in that position and stop your rotation. That's going to be affect the scores because of the entry. It's really past vertical there.
Yeah, that's a 25.30. Obviously, not a score she's going to be happy with.
And again, you got to be consistent throughout the whole contest. That is the name of the game here as well. Is, you know, when you miss, it's can you miss in a small way as opposed to missing for big dives and 3s and 4s.
Marich, our leader after 3 rounds.
Well, and that one, she did a great job on the entry, but you can see in the beginning there, she was in a little bit of trouble. She landed on the side of the diving board and went a little sideways, so you may see some judges take off for that, because that is a deduction.
She get a lot of 7.5s.
Yeah, she did a nice job with that.
It was a 54 even for Marich, which is a solid score to try to keep her in first place.
Absolutely. Now you got Alyssa up here doing a 305C. That's a reverse 2.5 tuck, and that's a dive that you see a lot of the men do. Not too many of the women. And so this is a little bit of a risk, but we'll see if it pays off for her. Unfortunately, that's what we call a balk in the sport of diving, and so they take 2 points off of the judges' scores after they go. So she's going to have another attempt at it.
But with the degree of difficulty here, can she get away with that?
She can. She's still going to have to do a very good one, but it's, you know, this is the risk you take there, taking that harder dive.
Second attempt here for Alyssa Dawson of the University of North Carolina, Diver of the Year last year in the ACC.
And again, that's probably not going to help her here in the contest. And again, you know, it's a lot of pressure sometimes, and you know how to handle that pressure and move through.
Well, why do it?
You know, it's one of those things where at some point you actually are going to need it. I think you're starting to see this more and more gymnastics ability out of our female divers, and they're starting to do the harder dives and do them well. You know, and sometimes it doesn't work out. So it's learning how to control those emotions in that situation, because it's not easy.
And Dawson only getting a 6. So she's in 8th place at the moment. So her score is coming forward. Now Molly Carlson of Florida State waiting.
So, and you see Molly here doing a reverse 1.5 pike. So a little easier dive, but you see what she can do with it here. It was really nice execution on the hurdle and right on the tip of the diving board. Going up nice and aggressive. The flight pattern through the air and position is really good. Just washed over at the end there. So still going to get very good, you know, good scores there. 6.5 to 7.5 is a good time.
51.6 is her individual score on that dive for Molly Carlson.
You see Danielle. Her order is going a little different. She's actually on the Immer 1.5 pike now, which a lot of the ladies have already done. So one of the things you see here with Danielle's dive is just lots of oscillations on the diving board and kind of losing her balance, and that can be a deduction that the judges take off for.
Let's see. She's getting a lot of 7s right now, all across the board with the exception of 7.5, so her score is 50.4.
Yeah, and her score was good. You know, even if she'd maybe been in a little better balance, those scores would have been 8s or better, and that kind of makes a difference when you're going to be tight and close there.
There's Mulca.
Blair's got a great start there on the beginning, and again, you got to get out, you got to use your visual cues, see the water, and then let go so you stop the rotation.
Mulca was in 3rd place.
You can kind of see from that angle too, she is a little bit on the corner of the diving board, which makes a difference. It's tough, and that's part of the kind of the risk of that hop hurdle is you got to be really consistent in the middle.
That was her lowest score, a 30. And now Bonnewell and Leyland, the last two remaining divers in this fourth round. Here's Bonnewell.
You know, and what I like best about that is the accuracy on the finish. Now, she did a good dive. Wasn't maybe quite as high as some of the other ladies there, but really accurate on the finish. Unfortunately, the last thing you see is her flat feet a little. They can be a little more pointed, but it's a really good dive.
She's got some 8s and 7.5s at 57.6 for Bonnewell.
That was good. A little higher jump in the beginning, and maybe starting to talk about those 8.5s in the very good range.
And now our final diver in round 4, Wallace Leyland.
That was executed very nicely done. Again, it went up well. Nice and vertical on your finish, and nice sound going through the water.
Well, Leyland keeps improving her position, and she does it dramatically. That's a 61.20, which moves her all the way up into second place after 4 rounds.
Yeah, and you see both her and her teammate there from Miami, first and second, going through 4 rounds. So see what happens here in the last 2. It's great.
Again, Leyland had the highest score coming into the final. They start from 0, though.
Well, and again, we have
another balk.
We have another balk there, which is you know, it is some nerves and pressure, and you gotta control that and do what you do in practice every day too. And that's the hard part, is, you know, controlling your emotions in that.
Tobin was in 7th place.
And really, after the balk, that's a very nice reverse 1.5 afterward. Unfortunately, you're going to take the 2 points away from the judges' score, so it's going to affect her overall score, but it was a good dive. These divers do a lot of training. You know, they're doing a number of repetitions during practice. You know, the hard part, though, is then to be able to do it when it's time.
Well, this was our leader after 4 rounds. We'll see if Marich can hang on to this lead. This is about the point where you maybe start to feel that pressure.
A little bit, yeah. And I think, I think she's got a good dive here. We'll see what happens on the last dive too. So, see if she can hold on. This is the back 1.5 pike. Well, that's definitely going to help her. It's right up and down and vertical. Again, I'd like to see it be a little more powerful and confident off the diving board with a bigger jump, but I love that she's nice and confident and strong on your out and nice and vertical.
47.15 though. Judges didn't seem to like it that much.
You know, it's a little low and a touch short, but you know, 47 is close to that 50-point range, and it had a little lower degree of difficulty too. So that is what makes that a little more challenging.
She's trying to hold on to first place. So Alyssa Dawson needs a good dive.
You know, and she's definitely got all the talent there. She's nice and high. It's moving fast. And again, got to get out a little sooner. Look at the water and see the entry.
46.80 for Dawson. Molly Carlson up next from Florida State.
So you see Molly's going to do a 51.32. It's a forward 1.5 with 1 twist. So it's a little lower degree of difficulty at that 2.2. But again, it's about execution. Good, got the good sound and the pop going in the water on her entry. Hanging 10 just a little bit. Her feet are over the end of the diving board, so it's maybe just a touch out as well from the distance.
Dawson scores coming, or excuse me, Carlson scores coming in at 42.90.
And you see that's the lower degree of difficulty there that really brings her back down a little. You can see the same dive from Danielle. She did a nice job of being on the end of the springboard there and really letting it go up. Get a little of the archy back in the finish there, and so it's not super clean, but it was very good on the jump and start.
Her score's coming in 7.5, her highest score. 6 is her lowest score. Her total score 44.0.
So again, just slightly higher than the one you saw it before.
Scores have been a little lower here this round.
Those twisting dives can be complicated. You got Blair going to do a reverse 1.5, 1.5. So 1.5 somersaults, 1.5 twist.
What'd you think?
You know, I didn't think Blair got to the end of the springboard, which makes it a little more challenging, especially if you're going to start rotating backwards towards the diving board. That's that reverse action. That makes it a little scary, and I think you actually heard maybe a little peep out of some of the people in the stands going, oh, that may be a little too close. But
46.8 is her score. 2 more divers to go here in the 5th round, and then we'll be heading into our final round. Bonowell's in 7th place.
You see Ayla doing a front 1.5 with 2 twists there. So again, a little more complicated, adding that degree of difficulty. And again, very nice dive, straight up and down. Again, not quite as high as some of the other divers, but very well executed in nice positions.
That is an excellent score, yeah. 62.40 for Bonowell.
Yeah. It's going to be tight there going into the last round, which is what you want.
Wallace Leyland, her 5th dive. She had been in 2nd place. Let's see if she can hold it.
Yep, and you see Wallace is doing a front 1.5 with a full twist. So again, that little lower degree of difficulty, maybe a hair too far out, but very nice dive in the finish. Let's see how much it hurts her there.
And Leyland nails a 52.8.
There you go.
And that moves her into 1st place. She's come from last to 1st. And we head into the final round.
And we got the final round. You got the top 3 separated by about 3 points, which is nice.
Leyland in 1st, Merritt in 2nd, Bonowell in 3rd, Carlson 4th. Here's Tobin, 7th place at the moment.
It's a nice back 1.5, 1.5. So the 1.5 somersaults and 1.5 twists. A really good job of getting her arms through on the start and getting it to pick up so it gets down and nice and vertical. It's a good way to finish for her. My guess is that's a dive she's pretty confident with. It's a nice way to end.
Let's see what her scores are. 55 for Tobin. So yes, very good score for Tobin to end the competition.
You have Marcella here doing an inward double tuck. So this is you're facing backwards and rotating towards the springboard here. It's a feet first entry, so not something you see very often, but it does carry a high degree of difficulty of the 2.8.
She lost her lead in that last round, slipped to 2nd. Oh.
And that's a little bit of what you have to take there, is you get that risk of coming out and getting that feet first, because you kind of have a blind entry on that, and unfortunately she over rotated a little bit. It was moving well.
And that is not a good way to end the competition at 26.6. Merritt had been in 2nd place.
Well, we'll have to see how that turns out for her, but you know,
that really helps Leyland.
Yeah.
There's Dawson, her final dive.
This was a back 1.5, 1.5 again. And you know, you see that's a dive that's still a little over twisted at the end. Looks like she maybe needs to get out just a little sooner, and that's the same kind of dive she was doing in the reverse 1.5, 1.5 before, where she had some difficulty. That was better, but still got to get out a little earlier of the twist and square it up.
Waiting on Dawson's scores.
You know, in the twisting dive, sometimes it is a little more difficult for the judges, and they kind of see what they see and kind of looking at it, and you're all in different spots, and you got a little different vantage point, and so there may be some discussion there.
Now that score still hasn't come in yet.
Or maybe some technical difficulties as well.
Well, the score that's on the scoreboard, I don't think that's her score, is it?
Well, I will
20?
I will tell you that that's probably accurate. And
Why is that?
Well, you've got judge number 1 and judge number 6 that are both giving that dive a half. They thought that it was pretty close to being almost so far over twisted that it was near being done incorrectly. And some of those other scores that are a little bit more in that range where they thought, it wasn't that bad. And again, it looks different from where you sit. I've sat in those chairs, and it can be really hard to make that decision in about 1 second after you see it and trying to replay it in your mind and what it really looks like.
Speaking of replays, is there any way it can be challenged?
It's not, actually. That's all the judge's opinion at that point as far as the execution goes.
So that score is going to stand. They're calling it out right now, 20 for Dawson.
It's unfortunate for her because I know she's very talented.
And they just waved Carlson off the board.
Yeah, and this can be a little challenging too. Is having to step back and you're already ready and set to go, and you're up there thinking it's your turn, and then you got to wait. So you see divers do a lot of that additional training. Molly's going to do a 51-34, so a front 1.5 somersaults with the 2 twists. Here's the 2.6 degree of difficulty. That's a nice job for Molly to finish on. And again, she was down there, I think, in 4th place beginning of that round, and so she's going to jump over that 300 mark and the 50 points per dive, which is nice.
Her teammates loved it. 54.60.
That's a nice improvement on her score from this morning as well.
So we're down to our last 4 divers.
Got Danielle here. She's going to double up on her twisting dives as well. She's going to do a back 1.5 with a half twist. So a little lower degree of difficulty. And if you're going to do one that's with a little lower degree of difficulty, you really want to do it well. And so she executed that very well.
And the score's coming out now at 7.5 the highest, 6.5 the lowest, 44.10 is her score.
Some of that's the strategy. You end up with a dive. You can maybe do a back 1.5, but the back 1.5 half is going to score better for you. So now we're on to Blair with her inward 1.5 here. In the pike position with the nice straight legs. That's a nice dive. It was well done. I thought it was maybe just a little turn going in the water, but very good start and jump off the springboard. And again, nice lineup.
Our score's coming in at 52.80, so that's an excellent final dive for Mulka. Mulka right now is sitting in 4th place.
We got our last 2 divers to go here. Miss Ayla Ballenwell doing a back 1.5 with a 2.5 degree of difficulty. And she's doing a very good one there. She's going to put some pressure on Wallace on her last dive here too. So that's going to get mostly 7.5s and 8s. That was a nice dive.
A 60 for Bonnewell.
And that's a good time to do a good dive, that's for sure. So she's over that 320 mark.
And moves her into 1st place, but Leyland, who was in 1st place coming into the round, will have her final dive.
She needs 57.85, which is on a 2.6 degree of difficulty here, so more 7s.
Well, you shook your head a little bit.
I'm not sure that that's going to get all the way there. It was a good dive, but it just didn't quite finish the way we wanted to there.
Let's see. It is a 45-40, not good enough. So Ayla Bonnewell of Florida State's gonna win it.
Yeah, like I said, anything can happen in the women's 1-meter contest, and you saw some ups and downs there, but it was a good overall contest for Ayla. She was just very consistent throughout the dives, and Wallace missed a little bit on that first round, and maybe that affected the overall result at the end there. So
Bonnewell from Florida State has won the 1-meter women's championship.
That's exciting for Miss Ayla. That was an awesome job for her and her Florida State teammates there. And some happiness there and some celebrating. That's always a fun experience. So, you know, and Ayla's a sophomore, so that's a...
So we have crowned our first diving champion. Ayla Bonnewell, the freshman, wins it. And we'll be back.